Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are tuning in to LATOKEN VCTV. Welcome to today's edition. I have a beautiful, wonderful panel in front of me, and we're going to be discussing a very interesting topic: startup education and steps towards becoming a unicorn. Today, I really want to encourage our viewers, wherever you're tuning in from, there's an opportunity to join the conversation, leave a comment, ask a question. And all you need to do is just drop a line on Facebook, Twitter, and also on LinkedIn. And then we'll put the question on the screen and answer your questions. So this is an opportunity for startups to also come towards to our team, pitch their projects in front of these beautiful investors, and probably get the attention you're looking for or the funding. There's a big opportunity here because we're global and we have our panelists from all over the world. Um, Before I go into the introduction of the panelists, I just want to give a brief about the education startup industry, or what we call the edtech industry. It has a market size valued in 2019 to be 76 billion and expected to reach 89 billion in the year 2020. The market is majorly segmented into hardware, software, content, and contents. And there's a whole big opportunity for hardware components such as laptops, tablets, interactive materials, in this industry. Honestly, I'm here to learn more than to give out any insights, because our speakers come with their experience and expertise. And so I'd like to start with the introductions from Mihai. Mihai, please introduce yourself to our audience. Let them know who you are, your experience, and what you're going to be talking about.
Hello, my name is Mihai. I've been a crypto investor since 2017, working on some of the first ICOs and kind of developing business models for some of the very first tokenized securities. Then before that, worked in private equity on about $2-3 billion worth of deals on average. So probably for about 20 in a career of only 3 years in the industry. So I can look at big companies and kind of break them down into their valuation, or startups and break them up into their potential valuation. But I tend to live somewhere in the middle, and if you Google me, you'll find some more stories. Hi from New Zealand.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for that. Next, I'll go to Ajay. Ajay, please give our audience a brief insight about yourself, what you do, and what you're giving us today.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. So I did have my edtech startup, and I did not make it a unicorn, but I did learn a lot from it. And since then, I have been investing in startups, early stage startups, mostly tech-enabled startups. Education is a priority, but even fintech and all. So what I can talk about is, what do early stage startups need to do right to grow the path, and how they can go all the way. So hi from India. Nice seeing you all.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks, Ajay. With your experience, I'm sure there will be a lot of things to learn from you with the experience you have. Next, I'd like to go to Vardhana. She just joined us, I guess, from India. Give us a brief intro about yourself, what you do, and okay, I think there's some audio issues. Gary, please
Yeah,
give us
hi,
an intro
audio.
about you.
Sorry, the audio. Sorry, actually, I thought that it's at 4:30. So
Oh,
a
it's
bit
okay.
of mismanagement there. Apologies for that. Then the audio was connected to Alexa, so somehow we had to disconnect that. So, hi
It's
everyone.
okay.
This is Vanna Tolani from India. And thank you for having me here again. Nice to see all of you again, Gary and the others as well. So a brief intro about myself. I have been in Jakarta and Singapore for 15 years in investment banking, had my own family office fund there. This is my 6th year back in India, did some investments, went back to advisory. Currently, I'm connected with 200 investors globally, and I call myself a global entity because we also pick up global startups from all over the world. In terms of ticket size, we pick up deal size from $1 million to $25, and we are sector agnostic. Thanks for having me here.
Awesome. Thanks, Vandana, for making it in time, even with the mix-up. Last but not least, the country boy from California, right?
That's
Gary,
right. I'm a country
will you
boy from
introduce?
Pennsylvania, living in California, but right now I'm in Palm Beach in Florida. So it's great to be here, Nathaniel. Nice seeing Vandana and the rest of the team. My name's Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 17 companies, 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion as a senior executive. Actually named the company, came up with a family of products, first deals, etc. We also did an IPO on NASDAQ with that company. And also I'm the co-founder of Viva.ai, one of the top AI companies in the world today. It's an AI HR tech company, and billionaire David Yang is my partner in that. We founded that like 4.5 years ago. I'm also involved with doing some work down in Miami. Actually, my partner just invested $4.8 billion in Miami 2 days ago. He's a $52 billion Bitcoin whale out of Dubai. Work with him on a number of projects. I'm also the CEO, co-founder, and president of the GSD, Get Shit Done Venture Studio, a premier AI and quantum venture studio, helping companies go global using Silicon Valley as a port, no matter where they are. We have African companies, Indonesian, European companies, in fact, one from Stanford University. And the idea is to curate them using the knowledge that we've gained of starting top accelerators and positioning them to be global successes. So it's great to be here. And I was also an MBA professor, and I write a lot. I've written 123 articles now in the last year.
Super, super. I mean, you must come with a lot of knowledge and insights that I'm going to pick from. And I think I'll just start with you, Gary, because the topic of being startup education looks really strange to me. I mean, I could look at startup agri, finance, some other thing like technology, but education to me looks like something that should be free, should be affordable by all. But then you have this industry that is growing up in billions of US dollars. Now, give me your own understanding. I mean, what has directly or indirectly influenced the emergence of education startups in the past few years?
Well, I mean, startup education, educators and startups are 2 different things, right? So I think, so let's start with startup education. I mean, it's like keep it simple, stupid time with that. So the basics, what happens as a startup? What are you trying to find? You're trying to find product market fit. You're using your business model campus, design thinking. The idea is to take something you think is real and put it down to understand it. Typically, people will go through an accelerator. That's really what we call is step 1. And step 2 is regional dominance. Now, of course, when you're going through step 1, you need to make sure it's critically important. And the biggest mistake that companies make is they don't use customer discovery. By that, I mean, there's actually a book called The Startup Owner's Manual, written by Bob Dorff, who's a very good friend. In fact, he was a dean of my school. I started a company called GBA Launch Gurus, which is a premier accelerator in Russia. And he was our dean. But this book is really right because he and Steve Blank wrote it. It's about how to understand, starting your company. So what's critically important? The critically important thing is somebody really willing to buy your product or service? Many times what happens with startups is that they have technical founders. They come out with a product that they believe is right for the market, but they never test it to go out and see if somebody's willing to pay money for it. So how does that work? I can tell you how we did it with Eva, which is my AI HR tech unicorn. So what I did is we actually went out, my partner, David Zhang, who's a billionaire from Russia. Actually, we hit the streets in Palo Alto, California, met with people in cafes, did a presentation for them, asked them questions about, very open-ended questions about the product, so we could understand, would you be willing to pay money for this? Would it be interesting for you? Are you willing to pay money? Then what we did is, step 2 is, once we got that down, we had our minimal MVP, minimal viable product, we actually went out and started to sell it to see, will they now, it's one thing to say you're willing to buy it, but are you willing to take money out of your pocket to pay for it? So it happens, 9 out of 10 companies fail. They fail for a reason, and that's one of them. The other thing is it's critically important for the company in terms of startup education is to understand that, let's start with the basics. Basics are how many people should be maximum number of founders? 3, right? If it's over that, many times investors, especially in Silicon Valley, don't want to fund it. So rule number 1. Rule number 2 is, you have an early stage startup. What are people looking at for you? Your passion, your optimism, your visualization, kind of these soft qualities. Do you really have the right stuff to be able to pull this off? So that's really door number 2. The other thing is you got to look at, does a company have a global vision? So number 1 is acceleration. Number 2 is regional dominance. Number 3 is going global. Do you have the right stuff to do that? So as you go down through, it's really validation, and most of the time people don't talk about it. They talk about doing a startup, but they don't understand the financing aspects. They don't understand marketing, business development, sales, the fundamentals. So primarily accelerators take care of that, helping you to understand what you need to do, when you need to do it, and how. But ultimately it comes back to you, and do you have the right stuff to pull it off? So doing a startup is not easy, for sure. But in many countries also, failure is not a good thing, because if you fail, it's bad. You should never have done it. But really failure is, and I don't want to say failure, but taking a wrong decision, you have to pivot. Yeah, if you go down a road and you take a wrong turn, what do? You make a U-turn, you go back, and you do it again. That's not failure. That's going down through and really course correcting, navigating through it to make the right decision. So part of doing a startup is you don't want to go down through and view it as, and through the education, you need to look at the soft side of the startup mentality. So the hard side, finance, marketing, business development, sales, and then the soft side, some of these intrinsic values that you need to have in order to succeed.
Thank you for that, Gary. I mean, some technical insights making a successful education startup, or any startup for that matter. In fact, I'd like to go to Mihai now. Mihai, I'd like to know your insight on education startups. What do you think directly or indirectly influences their emergence and their relevance in these times? Yeah.
Well, I think one of the key items that Gary didn't touch on is team, and that the startup ecosystem is very much an ecosystem. Like, I think a lot of people go into startups with this idea of, I don't really want to work for anyone, and like that's just completely wrong, right? Like if you run a consultancy, you're working for your clients. If you have a early stage startup, you're very much working for your investors. So it's not as much independence as understanding where you are in fact dependent. Like where do you end up creating and fostering a network? Then to go back to Gary's point on failure, you were one cog in the machine. I think having a perspective instead of, hey, I need to make this idea because this idea is a dream, and rather focus it on, I want to be a part of the startup ecosystem and community, I think is going to be much more healthy in terms of doing it, because you can have the perfect business model canvas and have this really great opportunity, that you've identified and all of these theoretical steps, but without having people who have experience both at the startup scale and in a field, at the public company or, the large scale private companies that are essential for whichever field it is to function. Without that chain of humans involved and fundamentally the advisors and people that can teach you how to do your job, it's going to end up kind of falling flat on its face most of the time. Like you have to remember that Apple was not just created by Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. It was created by the best board of directors that any Silicon Valley company ever had, and it was headed by Arthur Rock, who created Silicon Valley in the first place with his investment in Intel. So that membership to the community and buy-in from people who aren't just influencers in the sense that they know billionaires and they have a lot of money, but they have the power and wealth and responsibility that they do because of the things that they've done, right? Like Mark Andreessen, who launched the IPO bubble in the 90s, right? It's not, Andreessen Horowitz isn't cool for no reason. Those people's time is extremely valuable. So as you look for support, don't just look for money, look for time.
Awesome. I like that. A good team, good network, and you're on your way to building something great. I think,
Hey, Nathaniel, let me just add a piece. So one of the other things, especially during this digital transformation, that's critically important is the relationships, because trust is really important. And if you've had success before, it's a whole lot easier to get money raised. And then the power of the network internationally is going to help you propel. I mean, one of the reasons that Silicon Valley is still a port to the rest of the world is because of the contacts. I can go from my office in Menlo Park to Sand Hill Road in 5 minutes, where much of the money of the U.S. and the world is located, because they have offices there, right? If I want to go to Bosch from Germany, at Deutsche Telekom, Mahindra, I mean, you name it. They just happen to have offices there. And it's the access to those people. When I go to breakfast on Saturday mornings at Starbucks in El Camino Real, Tim Cook's in there, right? About 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. He works out at the gym across the street. Mark Zuckerberg, I see him at the Japanese restaurant with his wife, Priscilla. It's just you talk too. I mean, it's not like you don't talk to these people. But that also gives you opportunities, because they're not the only ones you see. So having those relationships, I've had 2 unicorns. Having those unicorns really helps, because what happens is it's credibility. They know you've done it. Luck's most of it. Let me tell you, doing a startup is a lot of luck. There's no question about it. It's not like it's all about being persistent, et cetera. But persistence and tenacity are also really important. So it's relationships. So relationships you have, do they believe you? Are you, you have to be
credible.
You can't overpromise and underdeliver. You have to underpromise and overdeliver, right? So when you have investors, and Mihai said the right thing, you need to have smart investors that work with you, because they become part of your team. It's like having an extended family. And seriously, when I had my board meetings with Eva, we would sit down and I use my board members as sounding boards to help me understand how to be able to run my company better, because you need those kind of external opinions. You're not, the best startup founders are the ones that understand that they don't have all the answers, right? It's about having that network to be able to support you. So also calling up friends. I mean, if I want to talk about security, I call the former chief security officer at Apple, Rick Orloff. If I want to talk about Stanford University and Harvard and contacts with VCs, I call Bill Reichert, Guy Kawasaki's partner. If I want to talk about retail, call the former COO of Walmart. You need to have that deep network on a global basis. And I lived in Russia 14 years, right? And developed a deep network there also. But it's having that, doing the right stuff, building a great team, and staying positive. I'm also a clinical psychologist. Yeah. I can tell you directly that being positive that you can do it means a difference between success and failure, because this road of doing a startup is up and down. right? It's up and down. There's up, down. But if you jump, it's like investing. A lot of people that get into investing jump off on the lows and buy in the highs. I mean, it's crazy, right? They're
Yes.
like, "Oh, I never make money in the stock market." Well, if you keep selling when it's low because you're nervous and buying when it's high because you're doing it with, emotion, you're never going to win. So the thing is, you got to
Definitely.
course correct. You got to be persistent. What are investors looking for? They're looking for consistency, right? Consistent growth, consistent teams, etc. Of course, you got to course correct if you don't find the right kind of fit with somebody, or your product's not on the mark with product market fit. You got to correct, but it's critically important. I started the first accelerator in Russia at Skolkovo Startup Academy, and with my partner Lawrence Wright. I almost said David Yang, who's my other partner. But yeah, we started with zero, and you come into this attitude that says, "I hope, maybe," in Russian, "Может быть," I don't know, "Я не знаю." They would say that, and no investor in the world wants to hear that. I hope. I told you that before. They
Yes,
want to
you
hear.
told me that, and I remember
Yeah,
totally.
you don't want to take, if you're going to take $1 out of your pocket, or 10,000, 100,000, or 10 million, and somebody says, "I think I can do it." Are you going to bet on them? I
Hell
wouldn't.
no. No
I
way.
wouldn't do it
No
because
way.
they don't say 100% that they think they can do it, and I'm not going to bet on it. So
Definitely.
having that pointed, that leadership position is really important, and managing cross-border teams. I had teams all over the world, and managing those teams to be able to go for one goal, one idea. The other thing is, you need to find people as a team that complement your own skill sets. So I'm a visionary and creator. I can do operations too, but I find the best operations people in the world, the best team members to work with me, because you want people to complement your skill sets and what you like. And guess what? In doing a startup, sometimes I've been an accountant, sometimes I've been HR. I do whatever it takes. Sometimes I've been an engineer. It really depends on what, you got to have flexible people that have flexible skill sets in a team are the ones that win.
And because of that, I think Ajay has some experience in that, and I'd like him to share a bit of the experience. The audience will probably learn from that.
Sure, thanks, Sant. I think both Gary and Mihul have covered most of the points. There's not too much on the table that I want to cover. But I
Okay.
think what Peter Thiel mentioned is one important point, which is the timing, right? Now, the startup success does depend on the timing, which includes the market, the regulatory framework, the economics of the location they are in, the ecosystem, etc. Now, how does the startup validate the timing is the question, right? I mean, Airbnb would not have been successful if it wasn't for the house slump in the US, the economic slump in the US, right? It's timing that's very critical. You validate it by looking at the product market fit each and every time, and you keep wondering whether the metrics that you're looking are right or not, and are you on the growth path. There will be a difference when you're doing the early adopters versus when you're actually scaling up, right? The product market fit needs to look very differently in terms of which kind of users you're attracting. I think that's the key to the growth, apart from all those things that were already mentioned, that a startup needs to take care about.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for that, Ajay. I'll come back to you, but I'm going to Badana for now. Um, I know that when it comes to education startups, North America is supposed to be the highest spender in that region. Next comes the Asia Pacific. And I want to hear from Badana, what is the prospect of education startups? Are we going to see the next unicorn come out from Asia Pacific? Or, I mean, knowing the advantage you have in size of population and the urgent needs to get millions of people educated. Is that
See,
enough?
I'll add in every, yeah. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Excellent.
I feel in all the regions of the world, it is very important that we educate the startups in the right manner. Typically, what happens is either the startup is too overconfident or too underconfident. They cannot maintain a balance between, what they are proposing and what they are not proposing. In order to create a perfect balance, we need to educate the startups in the right manner. It comes with also having the right kind of presentation skills, which I always emphasize on, and having the right kind of team in terms of having the correct CFO, having an advisor on the board. Not only that, seeing that whether the idea is workable or not workable. Because many at times, just because they want to become entrepreneurs, they jump into the startup system, not having enough knowledge about it. So, in developing countries, we need more incubators. Of course, Silicon Valley is really doing well. Some of the really good startups that have become unicorns have come out of Silicon Valley here. And in India also, we have many startups that have become unicorns. But we still have a long way to go in terms of technology, in terms of, business inclusion, in terms of having the right education as to how to set up a startup in the right manner. Uh, I have seen startups that don't want to invest in making a pitch deck. They don't want to invest in having a CFO. They don't want to invest in having an advisor on board, or having the open mindedness or becoming a risk taker. There is a fear factor which many startups have. So I think these things, these mistakes that they often make is, makes them fall back. And coming to failures, like rightly what Gary said, but I also believe that failures is the stepping stone to greatness. The only thing is that we need to learn from our failures and move in a positive direction. I always recommend all my audiences to read this book, Power of the Subconscious Mind, because it really helps us to become, to do things in a positive manner, and with clear intentions, and, and have more clarity as to in what direction that we are going ahead.
Awesome. Awesome, Vandana. You said something there that Gary said earlier, and how to reassess failures. Yeah, and I think I believe strongly that failures are really not failures, but because of the mindset of the average human, they tend
Yeah.
to see failures as a bad thing. But for
Yeah.
a forward-minded person, an entrepreneur, the head of a startup, you should see failures, mistakes as an opportunity to learn and do something differently, and
Yeah.
stop taking things from the negative angle. And once you begin to see that, you will probably move faster than your peers. And like Gary said, pivot faster and move in the right direction and all that. Now, Bob Vandana, do you think emerging countries or developing countries have an opportunity to take advantage of the education startup space and do come out with a
Yes.
unicorn in the next 5 years, 10 years? Is the potential there?
Yes, yes. In education startups, there is a lot of potentials. It is one of the hot sectors that have come up post COVID. I see the edutech sector as one of the hot sectors that is coming up, and I feel there is a lot of potential. We have seen a lot of investments happening in 2020, and we are looking for lot many investments in edutech coming up in 2021 as well. Schools will remain online for some time, though some of the schools in India have started the physical schooling. Like my daughter goes thrice a week to school. So, but still, a lot of edutech startups will take a plunge drastically, and the whole ecosystem of educating would change, and it will become, more user friendly for the children. It will become, more in the form of fun than more of a monotonous kind of a learning. So I feel it's really going to take a plunge. It
Yeah,
will,
yeah. I mean,
and I see a lot of young entrepreneurs coming out at the age of 14, 15 because of this COVID that happened, and everything changed around it. Children learn how to use Zoom, and they started doing something online work. They started making small earnings here. So we have to educate our children to come up with entrepreneurship skills more, and hence I think this is the right time to invest in all kinds of edutech startup. But of course there are certain guidelines as to what we look into it when we invest.
obviously, earlier on, while I was studying this topic, I read that some of the sectors that will benefit from this education startup sphere, hardware, interactive whiteboards, AR, VR, which Gary has always been promoting, and it's just like all these technologies are going to converge on the future, and it's inevitable. Now, just before we go on, in the next 5 minutes, we have a startup that will be pitching their projects to all of us here.
Sure.
We will have an opportunity to listen to what they have to say, assess them, make some corrections if there is need, and see any way we could support this project. Now, let me go back to Mihai. Mihai, you seem to have some more radical view about some of the topics I call I have to discuss with you. But I want to ask you, in many parts of the world, education is seen as something that should be affordable. It's not really a for-profit venture. It should be more like for all. Do you think there's any ethical line in a startup becoming a unicorn over educating children or whatever? Do you think there's an ethical line there that should not be crossed?
No, I don't. I really don't think that. I think it's. I mean, look, you have a limited number of people who can actually teach you, right? Like going back to what Gary and I were talking about in terms of the need for mentors. Mentors aren't free, right? Like if you're going the more formal route of I don't know anyone, so I'm going to start applying for startup incubators. They're gonna take a significant fee of in equity at least of what you're doing. Techstars isn't free, even if they give you money. They're far from free, and they have a lot of infrastructure designed to let people in. Same for Harvard, right? Like I went to Harvard. I have a lot of friends at MIT, and the ability to go between Harvard and MIT and be in that area, and to Gary's point about knowing all the people on Sand Hill Road, it comes the same way. So for education, entrepreneurship, like for startup education to be successful, I think you really got to pick your fields. So if you look at a company called Xperify, for example, they figured out a way to use in part AI and very standardized, easy learning for continuing education to teach people at MasterCard, at other financial institutions about machine learning. So there's a lot of these really hot topics, and I think taking education as this really broad swath is really forgetting that education is training towards something that makes you money. It needs to be understood as a component of a human resources value chain. And once you do that, you can start to have very interesting models where, for example, you may educate people, and in exchange, you're going to keep some of their salary for a number of years, right? And I think that kind of model is very similar to the model that incubators have with entrepreneurs, where they're, in fact, educating the entrepreneurs to succeed. And for that, they're retaining some equity. But you can do that with individuals in terms of teaching them to code and basically considering them as individuals as a startup. The hottest fields, though, in terms of what I think will going to cause unicorns to appear, both in the education of startups and startup education overall, is very much new technology, machine learning, teaching people Solidity, blockchain, genetic sequencing on a scalable way that allows a new generation of professionals to emerge out of it. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. I mean, you just pointed me in a direction I've never really looked at. Education leads you to a point where you begin to get revenue from the skills that you have, and that doesn't come free. And we need to get that out of our mindset. No, nothing good comes free. It costs something.
No
You have
such
to
thing
pay.
as a free lunch.
Yep, you're right on that. I think we can quickly jump into our project. Ryan is going to give a brief introduction of himself. Then he's going to go ahead with his pitch. Can we have Ryan, please? Okay, let's say he is okay. He's coming in.
Hi, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening. I'm Ryan
Yes.
Augustine. I'm the co-founder of Study Space with my business partner, Daniel Francois. We've been in the tech space doing digital marketing and web development for the past 5 years. And Daniel could
Awesome.
introduce himself. Yeah.
Hi, morning. Excuse the shades. I have a life sensitivity issue going on. I'm a total eye doctor, so it's not for cool reasons, it's just medical.
It's okay.
Yeah, I'm the co-founder of Study Space. Really glad to be here. You all said some really insightful things, and hopefully at the end of our pitch, we can get one of you as an advisor or mentor. It will be an honor.
Awesome. So I guess you have a slide to share before we start.
How do you manage to stay that still, Ryan? Ryan looks like a stock photo. You're like so smiling, so still. It's amazing.
I think
I love that so much. Are you frozen?
Yeah,
I think it's frozen.
Perfect frame to freeze on. It's just like,
oh my God.
that's amazing.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's like perfect.
Awesome.
Please go
Danielle,
on. I can help it.
Who's going to be pitching today? Daniel or Ryan?
Ryan's going to
Okay,
lead the pitch, and I'll be there to do the follow-up segment.
Okay, super. Okay, so I think you just share his screen briefly. Okay, some hiccups there. No worries, we'll come back to you. So quickly, Gary, give us some your insights. I mean, you have them, and you've written a lot about EdTech.
When you do a company, this is very simple, right? Think about the issues when you're going to find an advisory board. You need 3 people that could be interesting, and the basic 3. One is you need somebody, because security and privacy always come up as an issue. Doesn't matter what kind of startup. 2 is you need to have somebody that's a domain expert and has some contacts. So I'll give you a direct example. So I put on Rick Orloff, who was a former chief security officer at Apple and eBay, as on my boards. I've worked with him on many companies. Also, Bill Reichert, who's the partner of Guy Kawasaki. I always put him on. Why? Because he's got an MBA from Stanford, undergraduate degree at Harvard University. So he's got those contacts in the Valley. And the third person is I look for somebody that's had recent success worldwide, that's got some name brand recognition. So really the rule of 3s. And 3 people, no more than 3 co-founders in a company, because it's too hard to make decisions if you have more than 3, and the investors don't like it at all. So you need to be very careful on that side. And as I said, it's, this is not an easy road to go down through. I started my first company at 21. I had no idea what I was doing, none. But I made mine $9 million, right, in about a year and a half, a little less than 2 years. And so the situation is, and then mine was dumb luck, because I went into a market. I was really lucky. But let me tell you, the next startup I did was really hard. And I learned how much luck I had in the first one. I had nobody to teach me. I didn't have any mentors. My father,
Wow.
didn't support
Can I,
that
sorry,
side.
sorry, Gary, can I just, can I reach out?
They need to pitch.
I'd like to reach out to Ryan quickly. Is he ready to
Yeah, sure.
start his speech?
Did I fill in enough for you?
He's frozen again in that smile.
Okay, sorry about that. I think my internet, unfortunately, dropped. I'll see my screen.
Ryan, are you ready?
Yeah. Is everyone seeing my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so thanks again for having us.
Yes.
This is Study Space, a digital community.
Just a bit time, it's loading up.
Sorry.
I can see it fine. I think he can start.
Yeah, you'll hear me? You could see it and you'll hear me fine?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so thanks again for having us. This is Study Space, a digital community for education.
Yes, I'm here.
So our ask at a valuation of 1 point being 52,300 USD, we're looking for 5 to 10% investment. So what is Study Space? Study Space is a digital education platform that provides support for students, teachers, and parents in emerging markets. The problem of our stakeholders, the students, lack of internet access and devices, lack of socialization and motivation, lack of supervision and accountability, and a lack of appropriate learning mediums. Some of the solutions we provide for students: so tailored curriculum content, exercise recommendations through data analysis and machine learning, incentive-based learning, one-on-one online tutoring, digital tools, and online peer support community. Problems of parents: difficulty supervising and tracking progress, limited access to their children's academic schedules, differing education levels affecting the ability to teach and support their kids, and a lack of support and digital training. Some of the solutions we provide: so digital progress reports, digital academic schedules, digital support, training and tutorials, and finally, program-specific online solutions. And teachers: adapting to teaching online and feeling prepared, effective presentation skills, virtually disciplining students, understanding how to fully utilize digital platforms, and finally, a lack of support and digital training. Some of the solutions Study Space provides: exercise recommendations through data analysis and machine learning, streamlined progress tracking, digital support training and tutorials, virtual disciplinary features, an additional income stream through the online tutoring portal. And then finally, the problems of the Ministry of Education that we have identified in our market in the Caribbean and in our country, Trinidad and Tobago. So teachers' resistance to change, tracking problems and progress across all stakeholders, providing centralized access to and delivery of educational material for all students, and the solutions Study Space provides: provision of sufficient support through tutorials and training for stakeholders, a cohesive learning platform for all stakeholders, provision of live schooling and replayable content for students, and access to detailed data insights on stakeholder usage. So the solution roadmap: so devices and connectivity, which the government of our country is addressing. But the parts of the roadmap that we are focused on: the willingness and capability of the users in providing them with a more engaging and interactive environment in relation to schooling, replayable and interactive content so they can access that at any point in time, accountability and data, so ensuring that there are stakeholders to oversee these students to see their progress and ensure that they are learning, support and feedback in the event that they have any issues. You can always get the support that you need, And then finally, the data analysis and development, where the students are, how do we provide them the greater support for better results. Our current market, be the Caribbean market, has 7 major. Hello, I don't know if my thing is stuck. You hearing me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, the Caribbean market has 7 major players currently, and we have identified how we differentiate ourselves to those other companies. So how we differentiate ourselves, we provide curriculum-specific content. So depending on the market, in like for example, in Trinidad and Tobago, from primary school to secondary school, students do the SEA exam. So we're providing SEA content for that specific curriculum for that year, so students could come to study space to get the material that's required. Continuously updated quiz database. One of the issues students run into is when they're practicing for exams, they could only do past papers and the questions that the teacher provides. Whereas in partnering with teachers and developing a database over time, students could continuously practice quizzes of different difficulties to ensure that they're properly prepared. Incentive-based learning, so partnering with companies to provide movie tickets and possibly phones and laptops and so on for students, so that they are a bit more motivated to come back on the platform to get educated. Utilizing data analysis and machine learning to adapt to each user's profile. So based on the students' strengths and weaknesses, we can provide recommendations on the topics and the subjects that they should be focusing on. Ensuring the content is interactive and gamified, so it's a bit more relatable for students and a bit more engaging, especially when, given COVID circumstances, they're on a computer for 6 to 7 hours a day. And then finally, providing support for all stakeholders at 24/7. So revenue model, student subscriptions, our goal to get to 20,000 students a year, 15 USD. Teachers tutoring subscriptions, taking 50% of the online tutoring revenue. Parent subscriptions for oversight, so they'll be able to access the students' data on their mobile phones. And then sponsorship, advertising, and grant funding. And then finally, B2B, providing tailored solutions for schools that would want something only for them, right? For their specific curriculum and so on. The opportunities to scale after establishing ourselves in the Caribbean, seeking partnerships to develop tailored study space solutions in emerging markets, for example, India, Africa. And then expanding the functionality to meet users' needs based on the data captured, adding functions like one-on-one tutoring, live teaching, video conversation, analytics, etc. So what is the future of study space? So having study spaces where students could go to these or transforming the community and homework centers. The students could go to get access to digital devices to get prepared for school. Study space support centers to provide support for all stakeholders 24/7. And then finally, career pathing and mentorship. So the students that come through study space, we develop an alumni, and they can provide support for the upcoming students for the paths that they're taking in the future. Our team consists of 4 of us. It was created by myself, Ryan Augustine, and Daniel Francois. And we have actually gone to high school together for 7 years. And have encountered this problem, this educational problem, and I guess far more so during COVID, which is why we came up with study space. And thank you again. If you have any questions, and we'd love for anyone to possibly look at our MVP that should be finished in 6 to 8 weeks. Some feedback. Once again.
What is the current revenue in your company?
Thank you very much, Ryan. I'm sure everybody had.
Vandana had some questions.
Yeah, Vandana's asking a question.
Yeah, just wanted to know, do you have
One
any
at a
revenue
time.
in this, or just wanted to know what is the current revenue?
We are currently finishing the MVP, so we haven't generated revenue as yet.
Okay. Okay, and how much equity dilution are you looking at?
The maximum we're looking at will be 10%. We don't want to cross that for this the first raise without advisory and that support team.
Okay, so what do you guys actually have? Because machine learning is used in every pitch deck just along with blockchain. So, and I'm pretty sure
Okay,
that I've seen
anyone
at
else?
least 5
Gary,
ICOs
Ajay,
in 2017 that did.
Just comments, comments, insights, something you noticed.
I think his connection is lag.
Hello?
So,
Can you hear me?
No,
I
sorry, we hear you well. I think the presenter from LATOKEN, I think his connection is lag from you guys.
But yes, to answer your question, so we're using the rubrics that we get from the teachers that we're partnered with to then develop algorithms so that when students, as they do a specific topic or subject, we'll see their strengths and weaknesses in those specific, I guess, areas somewhat, and then provide them with recommendations of, I say, in that specific topic, you should be working on this quiz, that topic, and so.
No, I get the theory. What I'm asking is, what is your training data set? What is the level of precision that you've been able to show? Do you have Blackboard integration? Like, what is the level of actual machine learning that you've done and that you can show anything about? Like, does it blindly have predictive behavior, predictive analytics that you can demonstrate over, X amount of data from a school system in the Caribbean where you have access to, or you're just saying you're going to do it if you have the data at some point?
Yeah, so what we haven't done it yet, honestly. I guess our data analysis may be able to provide more insight into, I guess, the detail of it. But when we go to market testing in, I think, maybe 8 weeks when we finish our product, we'll be able to have a better idea, or I guess provide more details on exactly what that looks like.
I was wondering why you're trying to solve so many problems initially. Why don't you go step by step, try to solve one problem and then build the entire thing, right? Because you're solving the government, the parent, the teacher, and the student's problem. Not an easy thing to do, according to me. So is there like a roadmap that you have that can give me a feeling of when what will be solved?
Ryan, any question?
Ryan, did you hear them?
Hello.
Yeah,
okay, well,
Ryan.
Ryan, you hearing?
Go ahead, Darnell. Can you answer the question?
Yeah, let me answer the question. Okay, so what we're starting with is the quizzes, right? Because, like we said, mainly whether it's SATs or in the Caribbean, the main thing will be the quiz banks where people get prepared for exams. So that's what we plan to start off, and then we'll get into the curriculum-based content, and then, well, the live teaching, and as a revenue driver, also for the, well, I guess the teachers and the economy, the whole gig economy, and as well as for the platform to earn extra revenue, we'll go into the one-on-one tutoring sessions where we get revenue from that. But the first thing we're attacking is the quizzes, getting that quiz database. Did I answer the question, Ajay?
Yes, done. Thanks.
Okay, sorry about the break in transmission. Do we have any other feedback? Anything for the guys to take home? Study space? Nothing more.
You know, you're an early stage startup, right? And so Mahai had some good points in terms of, where you are with, and who developed the AI? Who put that? Is it there yet or not? Is it just an idea of what you want to have?
It's not there yet. It's an idea of what we want to have. we have a data analyst that will work with us to get it done. But in being fully transparent, the product, like Ryan said, is 6 weeks before completion. So this is pretty early, as you guys have said. So yeah, we have no data testing as yet. We don't have any market proof.
Who's building the machine learning models?
Tarek Paris, the guys on the team, the data analyst, he's going to be in charge of that.
Okay, but they're not done, yeah?
No, they're not done as yet.
Okay.
You got two San Francisco AI people on the call.
Oh no, yeah, I've watched Gary on another calls. I know he is very big in the air and he's very sharp. So I'm just being transparent, and yeah, I know he'll ask all the hard questions, and it makes sense, you know.
Well, basically, what I would advise is that you guys really, instead of trying to get product market fit, like you focus on trying to demonstrate the technology. Because in terms of product market fit, if you don't have any underlying technology under the hood that's separating you, and you know, if you're not going beyond statistical recursions in a meaningful way to actually introduce a technology edge, it doesn't make sense, you know, unless you're saying, okay, there's these 6 players and they're taking, you know, 30% of the market in the Caribbean, and so it's still, you know, it's still anyone's game right now, and this is how we're better able to pick up customers than the next guy because we've got, I don't know, the most famous teacher in the Caribbean, right? Like some sort of influencer play or just something. This is all very scrambled eggs. Like, pick a thing and just like actually get some traction on that thing. Traction doesn't just include like, oh, we make some money. Like, forget that. Actually get some data from someone. Like, find a partner, find a school district, find something that allows you to have data to train your models, and then you can come to the table and say, look, we have actually done some work. This is publishable level work, right? Like, I think almost taking it back a step and going into the academia and saying, you know, do we have something that's actually novel? Because if you're coming to us as a tech company, then as a tech company, your value prop is we are developing protectable IP. And I think before you can do that, you need to say, we have done this peer-reviewed research, right? That is the basis for our IP, for our position, for our direction. And you're not, you know, again, you're not looking at having this come out of Princeton. You don't need a publication in Nature, but you do need to have some serious traction under the value proposition that is baseline around the AI, because everything else, and not only has been done, but is being done now on a larger scale, both by local players and global players.
Yeah. Thanks for that feedback. Just to answer that question of where we're going to get information from, we pitched actually on Monday, and Gary pointed that out to us. So we actually are in the process of getting letters of intent from about 3 schools, one at primary school level, one at the secondary school level. I've also spoken to my friend who has a contact directly to the principal of the university, and he's very interested. So we could also get some tertiary feedback. And the Ministry of Education, they are also going to give us a letter of intent. So they're very much on our team for tackling the problem, because in the Caribbean, you know, and everything you spoke about earlier, developing countries and whatnot. So they can't come out publicly and say they're supporting us, but on the table they are really rooting for us. And yeah, so we're going to get those letters of intent together, and they are going to be our pre-testing grounds, as I guess you'll call it. So we can, everything you've detailed basically. I don't need to repeat it, but yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I think.
And thanks for the feedback from everyone.
Yeah, I think that's
think about and make sure we plan properly.
Sufficient feedback, guys. Thank you for your pitch, and I'm sure everybody will consider it in time. Any last words from? Let's start from Mihai. Any last words before we go off the show?
Love spending time with you guys. Looking forward to the next one.
Lovely. Vandana?
No, I'm pretty much done with my 2 questions that I had. So
Okay.
thanks for that.
Thanks for your input in today's show. Ajay, any last
Um,
words for the topic and for the guys, the pitch guys?
Sure. I think education is waiting to be disrupted. It's a good space. Go for what some of us have suggested. Try to solve the initial problems first, and then go big. Thanks, LATOKEN, for hosting us. I think some of the feedback given in the earlier sections have been incorporated, so that's great. Good to see.
Yeah, and I must apologize again for my break in transmission. My internet wasn't the best today. And then Gary, any last words,
Yeah,
insights,
sure,
thoughts?
absolutely. I mean, this COVID situation around the world is, and the digital transformation has opened up incredible opportunities. Kids aren't able to go to school. College students are restricted to being online. So it's really put an incredible opportunity out in front of us. So collaboration, predictive insights, being able to understand how somebody learns, how you can gamify different courses and study material to make it more exciting and interesting. It's really something that was going to take another 10 years has happened in just a very short period of time. So it's really a green field, but you got to get out there as fast as you can. People can reach me, Gary Fowler, on LinkedIn, Twitter. Today I have the mayor of Miami Beach on my show at 12 o'clock. So if you're interested in tech in Miami and this is a great thrust that's taken place, tune in. But this is a great time, and thanks VCTV for bringing information and knowledge and contacts around the world and tying it together.
And thank you, everybody. Thank you to our audience for listening in. Vadala, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just wanted to say that this is a very disruptive edutech world that is coming up. We are looking to invest heavily in it. So anybody who wants looking for investments, do reach out to us. And thank you for having me on the show.
Awesome. It's always a pleasure having you guys on the show, talking about the future and big things to come. Hopefully, we get to do this very soon in the next few hours or days over another interesting topic. And study space, thank you guys for coming. Um, Obviously, the feedback you've gotten has helped you know what you need to work on, what you need to improve. There's a big opportunity out there, and there is no such thing as failure. There's always an opportunity to pivot and reinvent and improve. So look forward to seeing you guys and meeting you guys again. And thank the audience for watching, sharing the links, and commenting. We'll see you guys at the next show. Bye bye.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
everyone.